So you want to main Poseidon, god of the oceans. First, ask yourself, why do you want to main Poseidon? Poseidon has a lot of AoE. He's super easy to learn and play. Poseidon can get enemies 100 to 0 real fast. He's just super fun and personally used to be one of my favorites. But before you main Poseidon, it's good to know the cons of him. His ultimate is easy to counter. He's squishy, easy to kill, especially if you're behind. Poseidon is a Greek SMITE mage. SMITE has classified him as an average god, and I actually find him easy to average. If you're an experienced Poseidon player, or you just love playing him, feel free to leave any of your own tips down in the comments below. In this guide, we're going to go through Poseidon as a mid in Conquest, going through his abilities, attack cancelling, combos, builds, counters, what not to do, and general combat tips. And you can easily apply this guide into other game modes as well. With that, let's go through his abilities. Poseidon's passive, Changing Tides. Poseidon's movement speed increases and his abilities do additional damage as his tide level increases. Successful basic attack hits increase his tide, and using abilities decreases it. You can keep track of it here towards the bottom left. Straightforward passive. Most of the time you want to try and have the meter filled up as possible so your abilities do more damage. Also, the extra movement speed is super nice. Poseidon's first ability, Tidal Surge. Poseidon's one is a line ability type. He throws a wave that travels in a line, dealing damage to enemies in its path. Enemies hit will also be pushed back. This ability is nice, but it's super hard to hit from a distance unsuspecting players. It's good damage, but it doesn't move very fast, so it's really easy to dodge. This ability works best in combos or if the enemy is very close to you. This ability is your main clear early game. Poseidon's second ability, Trident. Poseidon's 2 is a buff ability type. When activating his Trident, this grants him movement speed. His basic attacks will fire an additional 2 shots in a spread for 6 seconds. These shots will deal magical damage plus 20% of Poseidon's magical power. All shots increase Poseidon's tide on successful hits. This is a great ability to use to get your meter up and also is his main escape. Poseidon's third ability, Whirlpool. Poseidon's 3 is a ground ability type. Poseidon summons a whirlpool at his target location. This whirlpool will pull targets towards the center, dealing magical tick damage. This ability heavily counters mobility abilities. It's good to keep in mind that there's a bit of a delay before the cripple, so enemies will be able to get out before it kicks in. Poseidon's ultimate, Release the Kraken. Poseidon's ultimate is a ground target ability type. Poseidon releases a Kraken that damages and slows targets in its radius. Enemies in the center of the effect when it spawns will take additional damage. They will be bounced and stunned. This ability is extremely great in teamfights and blowing up your opponents. The more center the enemies are in the ultimate, the more damage it deals. However, enemies in the outer circle take significantly less damage, as shown here. Now let's get into leveling priority for Poseidon's abilities. For the first 5 levels, at level 1, his 1, at level 2, his 3, at level 3, his 3, at level 4, his 2, at level 5, his ultimate. For leveling priority, his ultimate for increased damage and stun, his third ability for increased damage and decreased cooldown, his second ability for increased base damage per hit, movement speed, and decreased cooldown, his first ability for increased damage. So basically, 4, 3, 2, 1. Attack cancelling on Poseidon. Attack cancelling allows for some extra damage. Basically, if you watch closely, it will cancel out some of the animation and go right into another basic or ability. This gives you consistent DPS and is not mandatory to learn if you don't want to. For his first ability on quick cast, as soon as you use your 1, use your basic. For his second ability, it's really straightforward. As soon as the buff ends, throw another basic. So basically keep the basic attack button pressed. For his third ability, as soon as you use your third ability, use your basic attack. For his ultimate on quick or instant cast if you're confident, as soon as you ult, use your basic attacks. Combos for Poseidon. Before we get into combos, a few pointers. Remember that he has increased damage and movement speed the more you fill up his meter. I would suggest to make sure that your meter is full when planning an engagement. Poseidon does a whole lot more if you can manage it. His second ability is situational. You can use it in many different situations, like using it when you need the movement speed, clearing objectives and structures, boxing an enemy, after combos, and most importantly, to quickly fill up your passive meter for more damage and movement speed. You can even use his second ability in between combos if you have time to. That way you can fill up your meter quickly for the next ability. I won't be including his second ability in combos. Use it when you need to, like at the times I stated just before. With that being said, make use of Poseidon's basic attacks. It's very important to use your basics in before, in between, and after. Remember that his first ability is a bit hard to hit from a distance. I find it a lot better when used at point blank or in combos. For short combos, 3 and 1, 3 and 4, 2 and 3. This is great because they're being crippled and pulled back, allowing you to get some easy damage off. For medium combos, 3, 4, 1. Builds for Poseidon. Builds always depend on what kind of enemies you're up against. My builds are just a general guideline. I recommend adjusting the build to your game accordingly. Poseidon can build many different things, so build according to what you need. For a damage build, Book of Thoth for more damage, Warlock Sash for more health, Shoes of Focus for more cooldown, or Shoes of the Magi for early penetration, Obsidian Shard against really tanky teams, otherwise Spear of the Magus, Gem of Isolation, you can grab this earlier or later, Soul Reaver, Book of the Dead if you picked up Book of Thoth or another item of choice. Other items you can pick up but not limited to are Divine Ruin if you need anti-heal, Spear of Desolation for pen and cooldown, Polynomicon for that big oof basic attack, Bancrofts and Typhon's Fang for lifesteal, Soul Gem, Shaman's Ring, that's a really nice item for Poseidon, Hastened Ring for the fun of it, super fast basics. Defensive items you can pick up but not limited to are Spirit Robe, Mantle of Discord, Magi's Blessing if CC is an issue. So as you can see, Poseidon can pick up a lot of items, and that's not it. He can also do an attack speed damage build. This build is super fun to use and relies a lot more on your basic attacks and your second ability. You can use this in lane or as a jungler if you want. I would recommend doing this build if you're familiar with Poseidon, at least in Conquest. I won't be addressing the build in this video. Instead, I will put it in the description box below on how to build an attack speed Poseidon. It's super fun, but I don't want to keep this video dragging for too long, so I'm just going to put it down in the description box. Huge shout out to Baskin Robbins, also known as Huge Deal, for helping me out with this. I really did not know how to build attack speed Poseidon, but there you go. If you want to try it, go for it. For relics, Poseidon usually picks up beads and Aegis. Counters of Poseidon. Aegis, beads, and Magi's Cloak counter his ultimate. Bead counter his third ability. Poseidon is really squishy, so he can die pretty easily without his abilities up. That is due to not really having a mobility ability except for the movement speed on his second ability. Poseidon really relies on his teammates to peel for him, so if there are enemies on you, you really need to tell your teammates to help you out with that because there's only so much you can do. This is also why Gem of Isolation is also very, very helpful in this case, and why it's so core on Poseidon. What not to do as Poseidon. Do not put yourself in bad positions. The only mobility Poseidon has is his movement speed. He can be easily blocked off from escapes against gods of high mobility and CC and walls. Do not hold your ultimate back in teamfights. It can do so much and give your team that extra edge. Tips for Poseidon. Remember to keep track of his passive meter. A good Poseidon will know how to keep that meter filled up as much as possible. Remember the multiple uses his second ability has and apply them to each situation. Poseidon's second ability makes him pretty fast, meaning he can also rotate really well. A way to fill up Poseidon's passive when rotating is to use your second ability on jungle camps while making your way there. No, do not stand there and kill them if you don't have time, just hit them once or twice while making your way to the other lane. If a melee enemy is sticking on you, just put your Whirlpool or ultimate under you. The most important tip for Poseidon is really just his passive. If your passive meter is low, prioritize filling it up. Use your second ability to max out your passive when you don't have time. Otherwise, make sure to make use of your normal basics to fill it up. And that is all for the Poseidon guide. A huge thank you to Deacon Joan75 for bringing us this Poseidon guide. If you'd like to request a god guide, there is a Ko-fi link in the description box down below. Just to let you guys know, I'll also be streaming on twitch.tv/SuperTeeds. I don't have a schedule on Twitch at the moment, I kind of just stream when I have time. So you can follow my Twitch or my Twitter and even my community posts on YouTube, and I'll let you know when I'm live. Any comments and likes would be super rad. Let me know down in the comments on who you'd like to main next. Remember that the attack speed build is in the description box, so if you want to check that out, it's just right down there. Feel free to subscribe and click the bell if you haven't already. It really helps me out. I'll catch you for the next one. Bye!